Welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Most of you know me as Triangle Investor from social medias. We are joined today by VR Resources President and CEO, Mr. Justin Daley. VR Resources is an exploration company with critical metals, copper, and gold assets in Western United States and Canada. Justin, thank you for coming to my show. It is great to have you.
Pleasure to be here, Lucian. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. As a first timer in my show, I want to hear more about your background, your origin story, and why are you the right man for the job?
Sure. Well, I started out with my dad being a geologist. I grew up in exploration camps and offices from a very young age. Sat around the dinner table listening about how the business works, learning a lot about the geology. And of course, with his peer group, I have a lot of amazing mentors that are current VPs, CEOs of public and major companies. So that's where I started with a love for the business and for geology. I went to Queen's University for my undergraduate here in Ontario, Canada, getting a undergraduate degree with honors, and spent the summers every year working around the world in Chile and Turkey, the Southwest US, and Canada. After that, I was had the honor to work with some major mining companies like Centerra and Silver Standard and Teck Resources. So really got that essential training in what major mining companies are looking for in these large gold and copper systems, mostly in the Southwest US and in Canada. And I decided at some point to get a master's degree in Sudbury at Laurentian University, where I focused again on copper and gold systems. And subsequent to that, I joined VR Resources. That was 8 years ago now. 2017, we RTO'd, went public, and that was on our Bonita project in Nevada. And since then, I've sort of worked my way up with my mentor and boss, Mike Gunning, who was the CEO of VR Resources. He is now the executive chairman, with myself taking over as CEO last September.
Okay. Before we press the record button, we were talking about gold and gold market. I want to hear your take on the gold market and where do you see it going next?
Yeah, I mean, I love gold right now. We're watching it steadily climb up. I think this morning I saw $2,760 an ounce. Um, I mean, I'm not going to say the sky's the limit. I'm not one of these crazy bulls on it, but we're certainly seeing a lot of metrics in the geopolitical sphere that are really favorable for gold going forward. I don't think that inflation is necessarily is under control as we would hope. Inflation isn't always the best story for gold because with higher costs, mining companies see narrow returns. But I think overall, for an exploration company, there's just a lot more interest in investing in the gold space, and especially in junior companies that are delineating, defining, or exploring for trying to discover these gold deposits. So there's a myriad of geopolitical things, especially in our neighbors to the south, that are going to push gold higher. And I'm looking forward to 2025 to see what happens.
In here. Let's unpack what you have, what kind of projects do you have, their stages and the plans for 2025. We can start with your critical metals in Ontario, your projects over there. Tell me more about it. What is the current stage? Maybe some history of those projects. Give me some color.
Sure, yeah. So the projects in Ontario, the recent ones were acquired from a prospector named Byron Holbeck, who I met 2 years ago now at Roundup in 2023. He showed up with this giant rock just laced with copper and silver and gold. And that meeting really sparked a business relationship between Byron and myself. He's this entrepreneur who's very ambitious, wants to find a mine. And so we really had this sort of kindred spirit in terms of how we saw the exploration industry and what we could do as a junior mining company joining forces. And so he vended in his Westwood Empire project, which is right on the Trans-Canada Highway. It's a series of magnetic targets that we've now tested with the drill and shown to be mafic intrusions that are fertile for copper, PGEs, platinum, palladium, as well as gold and nickel. So we've got six or so targets at the Empire project. This is in the Thunder Bay mining district. So we're about an hour and a half west of Thunder Bay and 60 kilometers west of the Lac des Îles palladium mine owned by Impala Canada. We're still operating 5.5 million ounces of platinum, palladium, and gold. But the interesting thing about this district that we're exploring for critical metals is there's almost no past exploration. This area is covered by sort of a 5 to 10 meter thick spread of glacial till, gravels, and sands. So without much outcrop in the area, it was difficult for early prospectors to get a sense of really what's going on there. And so the district has essentially been ignored for, I don't know, the last 100 years. Fast forward to 2024, Byron lives right in this district in the town of Uppsala, and he's just exploring in his backyard. He's reading up on all these reports, recommendations for exploration from the Ontario government, and just jumping in his truck and going out and looking and spending the time to see what's there. And this Empire project, the Westwood target, is the culmination of that work. I've got a chunk of that rock on my desk. Drove across the country on the Trans-Canada this summer,
Beautiful.
and this has copper, gold, and PGEs in it, right off the side of the highway. Nobody had ever sampled it before. So it's that sort of boots on the ground work that we try to exemplify at VR Resources. Just actually get out there and look at things. Get in the truck, get your boots dirty. So that's the Westwood target, and of course, I'd like to dive into our upcoming drill program
Sure, please
at
do.
our Silverback project. So that one we're really excited about. Both are exciting. Westwood being a more of a district play of these mafic intrusions, but we led off with the excitement in the gold market, and Silverback is a big gold target. It's we recently completed a 3 by 3 kilometer 3D DCIP survey, and within that survey we've identified a 1 kilometer long chargeability anomaly. So an area where we suspect there's going to be quite a bit of disseminated sulfide.
Mhm.
And the reason why that's important is in the Silverback area, just about 40 kilometers to the west, is the 10 million ounce Hammond Reef gold deposit owned by Agnico Eagle. And we're on the same structures, the same geological story, and it's just quite interesting to see gold up to 10 grams per ton with 5.5% copper and 50 grams silver sitting on these same structures west of or east of Hammond Reef, and a large chargeability anomaly, which is exactly the kind of target you want to see for that model.
Okay, so you plan to carry on some works in 2025. Can you tell me more about the location and the infrastructure, roads, power, water? Do you have it all?
Got it all. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're on the Trans-Canada Highway. Silverback is about a 20-minute drive south of the Trans-Canada. So we've got logging road infrastructure. One of the things I should mention about our prospector exploration manager, Byron, is that he worked in the forestry industry for the last 10 or 15 years, prospecting all the while, owning and operating a logging company. And so he actually went in and built the roads into our project areas. He was clear cutting the lumber and taking it to the mill. So the infrastructure is in place because the logging took place over these claims in the last 5 to 10 years. You've got rail lines, you've got hydroelectricity in the area, and we've got good relationships with our local First Nations communities at Lac de Mille.
It's great. And this project is 100% owned by your company.
Exactly. Yeah. VR Resources, the model for us is own everything 100% to expose our shareholders and ourselves to as much value creation as we can. We try to avoid these very large option agreements that can end up hindering projects going down the road. So we own all these projects 100%, with the ownership transferring 100% on the completion of a drill program last December at Westwood. So yeah, really we can do whatever we want from here, and we're going to be drilling. Well, as far as I know right now, Byron is currently moving the drill down the forestry road onto site as we speak.
And how many meters do you expect to drill?
So this is going to be a scout drill program. Phase two, Byron drilled 2 holes totaling 300 meters, spending his own money in spring 2024. The results of that are why I got especially interested in the project in the first place, as despite those, or aside from those very high grade samples in the center of the property. He found this Archean intrusion that is gold enriched. Not a lot of gold in it, but it's on the very periphery of our current chargeability anomaly. So it kind of begs the question of what's going to be happening in that chargeability anomaly, the gold tied to those disseminated sulfides in that intrusion. And we plan to drill around 1,000 to 1,500 meters in holes spaced around the area, testing different types of targets, different combinations of geochemistry and geophysics to really learn as much as we can. Because as I mentioned, there's quite a bit of cover in the area, which can be daunting to some explorers. But we've got some experience doing this up in the James Bay lowlands, exploring there under the muskeg with no rocks to look at.
Yeah, understood. Let's move more to the south, to Nevada. You have interesting projects over there. Let's start with your precious metals part of the projects in Nevada. Give me an overview of those projects, current status, and plans for 2025.
Sure. Again, we own all these projects 100% inside our US subsidiary. On the precious metals front, we have our Big Ten trend, which is about 25 kilometers southeast of Round Mountain, which is a very large 20 million ounce epithermal sulfidation system. The AMSL target within Big Ten is very similar looking. We drilled a couple holes into it in 2021, 2022, over the winter season there. It is in the Forest Service, but we're looking forward to seeing what happens with the new Trump presidency. There's a lot of talk about streamlining the process around permitting and just making it easier to get work done. Because as we know, we need a lot more of these critical metals and exposure to precious metals to drive our economies. So we'd love to get back there. On the critical metals front, we have two porphyry projects that we really like in northwestern and central Nevada. The Bonita property is what we launched on in 2017, drilling 8 holes. It's a 4 kilometer by 6 kilometer district that we took from just grassroots exploration all the way up to age dating it and now defining it as a alkalic copper gold porphyry system. We even publishing it in a Geological Society of Nevada symposium journal. So got some credibility on that. As far as what we want to do in Nevada, at the moment in this current sort of capital cycle, as we sort of head into 2025, there's a lot of pressure on early stage junior mining companies, and we're hopeful that as things change, as commodity prices rise, and more retail interest comes back in, we can go back to Nevada and do more exploration. The cost of exploration there is greater than it is in Ontario, especially with the exchange rate at the moment. So we're really we're sort of just waiting and seeing. We have some geophysics surveys planned for both the Bonita and New Boston projects, but sort of waiting now to see what happens in the market to raise the money that we would need to do that work. Other alternatives would be joint ventures. We're having ongoing conversations on the porphyry systems, including New Boston and Bonita. So really just sort of waiting and seeing what happens with the commodity cycle here before we get some more work done in Nevada, and focusing more on our Ontario projects where we can get a lot of work done for very cheap.
Yeah, you actually answered the part of my next question. You have a lot of projects for a $7 million market cap company. What is your mid to long-term plan here? Would you like to JV it? Like you said, you are in some discussions already, and to stay focused on a single asset, most advanced asset, maybe Canada assets. What's the plan here?
Yeah, well, having been around for 8 years now, we've collected some projects along the way. We're always trying to find something new, build it up to a point where we feel like a first pass drill program will give us a shot at making a discovery. As we know in exploration, it's not always the case. So with that in mind, our current goal is really to create some focus around our Ontario projects at the moment, create a clear investment case for this, while slowly moving the other projects along in the background as best we can. And should we have success on any front, whether it's at Silverback or Westwood, getting an intersection there, or at least a lot of market attention on what we're working on, the the ability to finance on those projects would give us some more cash in the bank to progress these other projects. So we're trying to create some focus while simultaneously pushing ahead these other projects. And we've even had some success in this prospect generation hybrid type model with a rare earth element project in the James Bay region. That was a rare earth element discovery made on the Kapuskasing structural zone. We were up there hunting for IOCGs on a big failed rift, and we ended up finding rare earth elements, which we drilled 20 holes, did a fair amount of work, and subsequently sold to Neotech Metals, who are a dedicated rare earth exploration company. So that allowed us to refocus back onto our copper and gold exploration roots, simultaneously giving us exposure to the upside with them, owning roughly 4 million shares of Neotech and $1 million cash in the bank. So those sorts of deals aren't off the table for some of our other assets, but at the moment, focused on Ontario, and planning for some follow-up work in Nevada should we, find a joint venture or find some extra cash in the bank to get that work to happen.
Yeah, that rare earth project, it doesn't have, it's not connected in any ways with your diamond project, Northway, or?
They're very close together. And in that sort of area of northern Ontario, there's the Victor Diamond Mine. It's recently shut down, but that's in the same general area. It's 300 kilometers to the north, same geology. While we were drilling at Hecla Kilmer, trying to figure out the controls on the rare earth element mineralization there, we were doing some regional exploration. There was this very large magnetic anomaly roughly 30 kilometers to the north. We hypothesized it could either be an IOCG or another carbonatite. And it was quite a surprise when we saw this kimberlitic breccia in drill core after roughly 200 meters of drilling. And subsequently had that analyzed for diamonds, and turns out there were a handful of microdiamonds in there. So brand new diamond discovery in a new age of kimberlitic breccia pipes in the area. We still have quite a bit of land holdings up there. Unfortunately, as many people know, the diamond market has been under pressure lately with synthetic diamonds and the like. De Beers even struggling as well. So that was a technical success and very, very interesting to work on. But at the moment, we're sort of just waiting to see what happens with the diamond market there.
For now, it's on the side, but you plan to explore it if you will have money and the market improves at one point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, people love diamonds. We'll see what happens in that space. We've got the claims for another 20 years based on the work that we've done. So very easy to go back in and reopen those files.
Okay. Justin, I would like to cover some company metrics, share structure. We can start with the share structure. Uh, if you can give me your shareholder breakdown, how much is retail? Do you have some big money in the share structure? Tell me more.
Yeah, well, so our chairman, Mike Gunning, owns roughly just under 10% of the company, having founded it with his own success in the uranium space back in 2012, 2013, selling Hathor Resources for, I think it was 650 million to Rio Tinto.
Yeah.
He transitioned out of the uranium space into copper exploration in the Southwest US, and with that transition, brought quite a few institutional shareholders, big resource dedicated funds that have backed us since the very beginning. I would hazard a guess that between the management team and some other insiders owning roughly 15 to 20%, some other high net worth individuals owning another 10 or 20%, and some institutional funds owning roughly 30% of the company, you're left
That's
with
solid.
around 45% float in the retail market. And that's of a total 100, sorry.
Yeah, that's a solid number, I would say, for a market cap of your company. So
Yeah,
the retail is around totally
40%, I would say, give or
40,
take. Yeah.
40%.
That's of a
Okay.
total of 133.5 million shares, I believe, at the moment, 155 fully diluted. So really strong inside ownership. We want this to succeed as much as anybody else. This is our, ticket as well. We want to see the shareholders succeed because we are them.
Of course. Uh, how do you approach marketing, Justin? How are you telling the story? How can you tell the story much better? Okay, you are doing interviews with me, not now. You are probably attending conferences. How do you approach marketing?
I think marketing is crucial in this day and age. You can't hide under a rock anymore and just expect your results to speak for themselves. You really have to try your best to get your message out there. And the way that we've been doing that is with social media. I think we need a new generation of investors coming into the space, and so I've been doing my best to put myself out there on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, X, and LinkedIn, trying to show people what we're about, how we explore, what the industry is about, because there's sometimes just not enough information for those very, very early stage investors to understand the mining space. It's kind of complex. So I've been doing my best to sort of spread a different message of what investing in junior exploration mining looks like, what a young CEO looks like doing this sort of work. And of course, you just have to tell your message over and over and over again, show them what you're doing and how you do it.
So all the work is in-house at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, and we have some contractors that are helping spread things out, but I'm doing social media posting just about every day. And, it's easy enough these days with AI to sort of build out a schedule, have ideas that you want to put out there, create content really quickly, and, using Instagram on a regular basis to sort of create content that's engaging. Because we feel that, and YouTube videos as well, we feel that the work that we do actually is quite interesting. You've got helicopters, you've got heavy machinery, you're out in the bush, you're seeing wildlife. It's all an adventure, and there's day-to-day hijinks that happen where things are breaking down, and if you can sort of grab people's attention by showing them how the business actually works, how the work on the ground happens, you get buy-in. You think about all these shows on the Discovery Channel. I think there's a lot of space out there for something like that where people can get emotionally invested in the characters and the drama and the type of work that's being done, and then very slowly they get interested in actual uh, investment upside as well, we'll say.
Yeah, good point. Justin, what is your current cash position and for how long are you covered with the amount you were about to say?
Yeah, so we did a flow-through raise just over Christmas, raising $400,000, which is dedicated to the upcoming drilling at our Silverback project. We're going to spend roughly 250,000 of that up front, and then we'll see what happens from there. In total, though, we've got just over $1 million in the bank right now. And the way that VR is set up is extremely lightweight. We want to try and get as much of the money that we raise into the ground as possible. Of course, there is a G&A overhead of operating a public company that we have to be cognizant of, but essentially it's just myself, the CEO, and a couple other, part-time contracts for CFO, accountants, legal, compliance, all that sort of stuff. So really, really light G&A structure so that we can put as much of the money as we can into the ground. And with what we have right now, we're good for roughly the next year. And as I mentioned off the top there or earlier on, we have a share position in other junior exploration companies. So our liquid assets are around 1.5 to 1.7, depending on where other things are trading at the day.
When you say light G&A, how light? What is your monthly cash burn?
Well, annual is roughly 650,000, so roughly 50 to $60,000 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, covering
Uh,
listing fees and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, yeah. How difficult is to raise money today? You did a flow through, like you said recently, but do you see the interest? Do you see increased interest as we are entering 2025 for the junior companies,
Yeah,
specifically your company,
definitely.
of course?
Yeah, for sure. There is increasing interest. Certainly 2024 was not a great year. It was a little bit more difficult to raise money. when you have interesting projects and you're pulling in attention on the work that you're doing, it does get easier. And in general, I would say since October, November, there's been this increasing demand to invest in fundraising rounds in these early stage companies. We're seeing that trickle down from the major mining companies doing huge M&A transactions to advanced stage projects being acquired, and very, very gradually and all of a sudden it's happening almost all at once. We're seeing that money trickle down. Just recently at the VRRC and at MIF and Roundup in Vancouver, it was the busiest I've seen it in several years, and people openly asking when is the next financing going to happen, and please give me a call when and if that happens. So it looks like it's starting to turn around. Fingers are crossed, and hopefully with some results at the drill bit at our Silverback project in the next couple weeks, it'll be even easier.
Final question, news flow from the company. What can investors expect and when?
Sure, yeah. Well, I've taken another sort of different approach here. A lot more news, more frequently, trying to be as transparent as possible. I think we averaged a news release at least every week, if not every other week, through the fall since I took over as CEO, realizing that people want to know what's happening. Attention spans are shorter than they were 10 years ago, where you kind of invested in a company and you're willing to wait the 9 months for news to come out. So with that in mind, we expect to see results from our Westwood drilling back in December in the next couple weeks. There were some delays over the Christmas period, but we hope to see that data towards the end of this week, if not next week, as well as announcing the drilling. I mean, I'm talking about it openly now, but we'll be showing the drill targets that we're setting the drill up on next week, and then sort of announcing what we're seeing as we go with the drill program, showing the market that we are looking at the right geology, we're hitting our targets, showing follow-up drill holes based on what we're seeing, just to create an sort of environment of transparency so investors know exactly what's going on, what we like, what we don't like.
That's the right approach. That was VR Resources President and CEO, Mr. Justin Daley. Justin, thank you for this interview, and I wish you luck going forward with your projects, with the financing, with all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.